All my papers in the seminary were papers on the establishment of the monastic ideal. So it was God was trending me toward a single life during that. And about 30 miles from where I live is one of the most famous Catholic monasteries in America, the Cistercian monastery where Thomas Merton was. And I've met Merton a couple of times, and I've lectured on Merton. So there is a kind of a kinship. And the Catholic committee in our council, and I have close relationships, and I've spoken to their retreat centers. And they all know I'm a Baptist, but they know that I have a real openness. It wouldn't work for me because I resist external authority. You know, I lean much more toward pietism than to fit in a pattern of external authority.
Wow. So that's great. Anything else I should have asked?
I don't know.
I think.
Well, I may, just personal, I may be older than I look. I'll be 80 years old in May. And next month, I'm going on a 10-day mission to La Paz, Bolivia. Take just a backpack for my own things, and then a large suitcase full of everything I can put in there. Clothes, pens, shopping bags, fabric shopping bags, because it's the poorest country in South America. And risky. Lots of street thieves in La Paz. You have to be very careful. Then, but to be honest spiritually, a very high secondary reason for going would be to fly for 4 days to Cusco and see Machu Picchu. It's really forever been on my bucket list. So I really just can't wait to see it.
What is the most interesting thing you found about teaching overseas? Is there a little nugget that you have to share?
Well, the most interesting thing is that the country becomes part of the classroom, and you try to energize them with paying attention to what's there now and what used to be, and there's always a lot of used to be's in England. And we structure our academic program so we integrate British lecturers and excursions, and we would have a docent with us, or one of the professors would interpret the sites. My father died when I was 6 years old, and I'm one of 5, the middle child. And we went to live with my maternal grandmother, who was a very good woman, but she was a martinet, a very fierce disciplinarian. Her husband died before my mother was born. 3 weeks before my mother was born, her father died. My father died when I was 6. My father's father died when he was 9. So there are 2 whole generations in which there are no breadwinners and no male models. So my connection with that was my step-grandfather, who thought I was a little prince. It was just, I remember him fondly now.
Reflecting back on that sort of history, do you think that's helped to shape you in the religious and philosophical life?
Clearly. As a child, I roamed the wilderness. You know, we lived in eastern Kentucky, and there was a palisade on my grandmother's property, which was, I suppose the cliffs were 70 to 80 feet high, and we climbed all over those. And there was a river valley that ran through. So I got to see flora and fauna from the bottom to the top. And I had 2 brothers, and we weren't irresponsibly wild, but wild enough. We kept asking our mother, could we go fishing? No, she was afraid we would get hurt, drowned. So, but in that Kentucky River Valley, there was worms on the side of the sandbanks, which were green and smelled horrible. Well, we would come back and with all kinds of mud all over us and smell rank of fish and worms. And my mother said, "Have you boys been fishing?" "No, ma'am." My mother never restrained me. Actually, I started going away, expanding my life very early. She never put any unnecessary ties to my growth. And my mother was a simple person, not any education. When my oldest brother died at 57, she was in the hospital, and the doctors came and asked her if she would donate his organs to, she didn't hesitate. And I was at the hospital just as they were leaving, and I asked on the floor to see his body. Literally, they had him on life support. So I asked to see the doctor, and he came in and invited me into his office, and I said, you saw my mother's reaction to this need, and you saw her character. I said, but she's a simple person. Please don't make her wait and develop a regret that she might not. He said, I promise you, we'll do the surgery by 9 o'clock tonight. And about 9:30, they called from the hospital, and they used his corneas, bone tissues, his kidneys, and all sorts of organs. He smoked, but he never drank, so there was no issue with not being able to use his body. There's my mother behaving like the most sophisticated, wise person. And she lived to be 101. She died 3 years ago. And toward the end of her life, she said, Robert, you never caused me a minute's trouble, which is one of the great affirmations of my whole life, for her to say that. So without male guidance, my father's oldest brother became a surrogate father for me. And then preachers. When I was a little boy, my heroes were preachers. So that steered that kind of modeling. But I started off in engineering. I was going to study physics and engineering. And in the Army, I was in guided missile electronics. So it's kind of a strange education I had that blends this whole range of liberal arts and scientific education. So it's been a real blessing as a professor and as a minister too.